Great to have you with us. Now, if you are a Ghanaian worker, get ready for some changes on your payslip. Why? Because the National Health Insurance Authority is proposing that 1% of your salary should be deducted to help cushion the ailing scheme. This will bring the total levy paid by workers to 3.5% instead of the 2.5% currently being deducted. This is just one out of the several proposals, including a setting aside of 5% of the road fund for the scheme, review of the NHIL exemptions, and an introduction of a levy on tobacco and alcoholic beverages. We will hear from the National Health Insurance Authority shortly, but first, let's pick the thoughts of some workers on this. And Solomon Kote is the General Secretary of the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union, ICU. He has joined us on the line. Mr. Kote, are you ready to give up an additional 1% of your salary to save the scheme? Hello, Mr. Kote, can you hear me? Well, we have Mr. Solomon Kote, General Secretary of ICU, on the line. We're finding it difficult to hear him, but let's go on the other line and speak with Oswald Mensah, who is a Deputy Manager in charge of marketing at the National Health Insurance Authority. Mr. Mensah, what is the rationale behind this new proposal?
Daniel, and good morning to your viewers. As you rightly said, the NHS has come to a point where we must take a critical look at the financial model that sustains the scheme. I don't think there's any new conversation when we hear that the scheme is at the brink of collapse, and therefore it's about time that we take the necessary steps for us to build a very resilient health insurance scheme that will be fit for purpose for the next 10 to 15 years. As you know, the scheme has been funded primarily by VAT 2.5% tax, and then also by 2.5% contribution from SNCs over the years since the 2003-2004. And this is what has pertained for the past 14 years. Now, we've come to a point where we feel that we must relook at the financing of the scheme. We want a situation where our members are confident to present a card to healthcare facilities, knowing very well that they can be taken care of. We want to a point where the conditions can be taken care of on the scheme. We want a situation where providers will be very happy to accept our cards and knowing very well that they will be reimbursed quicker. We want a situation where the scheme will be fit for purpose, as I said. And this is what is actually precipitating the point that we need to relook at our finances and do that now. And the reason is that we all know that there's been discussions around the health insurance scheme and its financing models for quite a while now. Over the past 10 to 5 years, most importantly, there's been a lot of stakeholder engagements and proposals that have gone back and forth, but we haven't still been able to take this on as a country to be able to, say that for the next 10 to 15 years, we have arrived at a point where we are actually able to finance the scheme into the future. So what is actually happening now is that we are engaging again with stakeholders, especially organized labor across the length and breadth of Ghana, to make sure that we take inputs from them to share the vision and the need and the rationale. That at this point in time, we must collectively own the scheme and make sure that we fund it that will make it more sustainable for all of us.
Mr. Mensah, Mr. Mensah, is it the case that the current funding lines into the NHI were inadequate from the beginning, or because of the increase in population, it has become necessary to supplement them?
From the beginning, it was really good. We have had a lot of acclamation from all over the world. People come to the NHI to understudy our scheme only because of the uniqueness of our funding structure from the beginning. And certainly, the fund was very healthy and had a surplus balance all the way from 2004 until a point around 2009, 2010, which was actually predicted from the beginning of the scheme. That by that time, if the financing model was not re-looked at, then the scheme will begin to struggle. And the truth be told, a lot of members have come onto the scheme. As we speak now, we actually peaked at a point of about 11.4 million active members a few years ago. And unfortunately, we had a little decline in membership only because, as I said, the confidence in the scheme began to wobble, and the scheme was not able to do what it was set up to do. So this is the time that we all must come together and re-look at that. And so for that matter, an 8-point proposal has been made to government to consider part of which is a contribution from workers, as you rightly said. We're looking at a situation where you and I, will pay just 1% of our monthly wages into the scheme. So that
right.
The scheme, then the employer will pay or contribute 2%. Amongst other things, we're looking at health tax and so many other proposals that are put before.
Mr. Mensah, we'll come to the details of those proposals. We have Solomon Kote of the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union, the General Secretary, on the other line. Mr. Kote, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, and my regards to your listeners and your colleagues in the
Mr. Kote, I want to crave your indulgence. I'll come to you in a moment, but Mr. Mensah made a point where you said that an 8-point proposal has been presented to government. Now, you were also saying that you are in the period of consultation with stakeholders. So where are we now? Have we presented this proposal to government as what is going to go if government approves, or we are still speaking to stakeholders to decide on how we are going to supplement the funding of NHI?
I believe, hello?
You're on air, sir.
Yes, I believe government will not just go ahead and do any approval on this proposal, because it is an issue that is that must be made subject to people to negotiate, especially the stakeholders. As it stands now, we believe the NHI people have not even made an account to us to tell us that ever since we began the program, your 2.5 that we're deducting monthly culminates into this, and then these are the challenges that we've had. We know government have also been contributing to it. What has really been the cause of the challenge? Is it that the management have been efficient, or we are getting more people coming onto the scheme who don't pay anything to the scheme and yet they enjoy the scheme? Why can't we go after those people and make them also contribute to it? Charges that they make on those levels, how is that also coming? The easiest thing should not be to say that those of us who are in the reach where they can easily come to us, then they come and say we should add on and pay. More so, most and majority of our members are not beneficiaries of these NHIS because their respective companies are not keeping them on the scheme. They are going far beyond the scheme. The scheme has a limited diseases that they cover. So we think the issue of the challenge of the NHIS should not jump into the scheme just like that and begin to discuss it and say, this is what we are intending to propose. Those of us who are majority stakeholders, we need to understand some few things. These have not been done adequately. That is why I'm saying that we are not ready for the increase for now.
Right. Mr. Kote, thanks for putting those concerns forward. But really, I'd like to hear from Mr. Mensah on that issue. At what stage are we now? Have we put proposals to government that this is what the NHIA has decided, or we are still waiting on consultations? And as Mr. Kote just put forward, they have not been contacted by the authority.
Okay, thank you very much. I understand where Mr. Kote is coming from, and that is part of the reason why the board and management of NHI have deemed it necessary for us to engage with stakeholders over the past couple of weeks now. Since December, we have had a series of meetings with the hierarchy of TUC, with organized labor. And
but, sir, I'm sorry to step in here, but Solomon Kote, who is on the other line, is one of the leaders of organized labor in Ghana. He's the General Secretary of the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union, who represents thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of workers across the country. He is not aware of any such consultation.
Yeah, I'm sure Mr. Kote might probably also be speaking with regards to the rank and file of the organization that he's part of. And for that matter, we were advised by the top hierarchy of the Labor Commission, the organized labor union, to rightly, as he said, to explain the rationale and what we're trying to do. So this is a process that has actually started in the past week. We have been to Upper East Region, held extensive meeting with organized labor, which in every forum we have more than 200, 300 representatives from the groupings. We have explained to them, and we've had a rounding welcome and an applause for the direction that the NHI wants to go.
Mr. Mensah.
We were again in Tamale. We had a series of meetings with the organized labor in Tamale, also very successful. We were down in Ashanti region only on Friday last week to meet with organized labor again. And these are well-attended programs. As I speak with you, we have the next meeting in 5 minutes in the Brong-Ahafo region in Sunyani, where we are meeting again with organized labor. So we have, I actually understand where Mr. Kote is coming from, and that's why we're taking time off to try and explain to members. And of course, their team is very, very, very critical and important to what we're trying to do. And we feel that it will be necessary for us to share the vision and for them to also understand and to buy into what we're trying to do. NHI must be owned by all of us. It is not to be toyed with. Our health is so important, and we have to make sure we have a well-funded scheme that will fit for purpose for the next 10 to 15 years. And they play a critical role. And we hope that we'll have the support from organized labor by the time that we go around the whole country and explain to them the accountability that Mr. Kutya is asking for. I'm sure at the time we finish this program, it will be fully clear to everybody where the NHI is and where we want to go next.
But you see, Mr. Mensah, if you are working with organized labor as a stakeholder, should you not have the leadership on board with your decision before you approach the membership to explain what those decisions are? Because at this point...
Leadership has been with us throughout the journey. And even this morning, I read on the news page a statement by the Secretary General of the TUC, also, as it were, positioning that it's important that we must all look at the NHI and make sure that it's well funded. Over our deliberations, it's key that people, of course, are concerned that why do you want to put money into what is perceived as a leaking basket? But together, the management has explained to organized labor the other things that are being done to make sure that the scheme is sustainable in terms of the internal controls that must be put in place, what the scheme intends to do, how the scheme wants to make sure that fraud against the scheme will be eliminated, how the scheme wants to make sure that it's going to leverage on ICT to make sure that we're going to have a cutting-edge technology that will drive our claims management to make sure that we reduce fraud. These are things that have been explained to organized labor for everybody to understand that we are being as accountable as possible and that we want to build a resilient scheme going forward.
Let me go to Mr. Koti on the other line. Mr. Mensah here is telling us that leadership has already been consulted. He's referring to a statement written by the TUC General Secretary, Secretary General, I should say. So you should be fine on your end, no?
No, what I'll say is that they have started the consultation process. There has been a first week. They continue to tamale it. But organized labor itself will have to meet and consider the proposals that they are bringing, whether we'll accept it or not. Jumping the gun and trying to go and meet the grassroots is not the way organized labor is supposed to take this decision. On the 31st, which is next Wednesday, there is going to be another meeting. So the conclusion on their proposal have not yet been, accepted. So they should not come out and say that this is the proposal that has been accepted by organized labor. The issue is that we will need to do the evaluation ever since we brought this NHI into place. The contribution we have been paying, how has it actually been managed? And what are the management elements? Is it that the additional money we want, or we could do prudent management and that could also save the system? All these things are not interested. So coming out to say that we rather want more money, labor is interested to see how efficiently have we been, and if we have been efficient, and we also look at those that we have also looked on who are enjoying without paying anything. How are we taking them also to contribute? That we need to come and say that because we contribute direct to the first year where our 2.5 is being taken, we want to add another one. We are not ready to just take this proposal on the face value of it. And I want to assure him that if Wednesday we go to this meeting, maybe respective national unions will table their concerns and then we'll take it from there.
Since, in your words, you are not ready to take these proposals face value, are you then saying that as it stands now, you are not willing to pay this money?
Well, as it stands now, we have the responsibility, if even a decision is made, every national union has the responsibility to go down to its members, either to go and explain or to go and give them a position as to whether or not we are accepting what this proposal is coming from, or we should leave it as it is. We will look at the benefits that we have. And could there be any other means by which we will derive the same benefit without, having additional, charges being made on that? So there's a lot more to look at, not the immediate, straightforward proposal that Mr. Mensah is putting out there for us. We have a lot of more work to do.
But this is being done, Mr. Kote, sorry to step in here, but this is being done. This consultation with the rank and file of organized labor is being done by the authority already. So you can say that the ground is being firmed up already. Would you be willing to accept the proposal?
We are engaging leadership of organized labor. Leadership of organized labor, after that, will also have to go and consult their structures. That is how decisions are made. We can't just take the decision at the top and then we come and say we are pushing it on everybody. No. When they talk to us at the leadership level, now we have to cascade it down to our various meetings, get back to the respective locals, and then the decision is made. That is how it is done.
So at this point, would you look at what is being put forward by Mr. Mensah on the other line as a simple proposal, which you would, if I may finish there, would you look at what is being put forward by Mr. Mensah on the other line as a simple proposal you have to decide on, or it is something that you are ready to make a decision on now?
I'm saying, put up a case, and that case will be analyzed. And when it's analyzed, we are not the final arbiters. The final arbiters will have to be carried along the generality of the membership. So at this stage, we believe they are just at the primary stages of the consultation processes.
Right. Let me go to the other line and get some final words from Mr. Oswald Esiameta.
Yes, Daniel. Let me just say that at this point, we are not making any emphatic statements in terms of what is going to happen.
But you have presented, Mr. Mensah.
Proposals.
Mr. Mensah.
If I can finish off. We have actually presented proposals of which we are taking input from all the critical stakeholders that matter. So at this point, I don't want us to preempt the question and asking Mr. Kote as though he agreed to this at this point or not.
But you see, the difficulty here, Mr. Mensah,
we have a process, we have a roadmap. We want to run through. All we're doing now is engaging with Labour. We're taking a lot of input, and they are making a lot of contributing input into the process, which we're going to factor in. So perhaps when we speak in about a week or two, we'll be in a better position to determine whether we are for or against this process.
But Mr. Mensah, the difficulty here is that you have said that you have, Mr. Mensah,
of the idea that the scheme must be funded and funded well.
Right, but the difficulty here is that you have said that you have presented an 8-point proposal to government. These 8 points include what you are now consulting organized labor on. So, for instance, how is government supposed to take these proposals? Is that what the NHIA is going with, or they will be changed in the future?
Yes, there's so many, as I said, there's so many, there's road fund increment, there's also an increase. We're asking that if it's possible for government to increase the VAT component from 2.5% VAT to 3.5% VAT, and not necessarily increasing VAT from 17.5 to 18.5. All we're suggesting is if we can get an extra 1% out of the existing 17.5 VAT, that is also going a long way to fund the scheme. As we speak, you know, we have a funding gap of almost 376 million Ghana cedis for 2017. And if you're going to start a year with such a funding gap, it is critical that we take all forms of measures to make sure that the scheme will first of all cover what appears to be a funding gap and make sure that we have excess. This is a scheme that needs, as an insurance scheme, you need to have at least 3 to 6 months of reserves cover for any events of catastrophic situation where you can actually fund your scheme adequately. But here we are, the scheme is running a zero balance on its reserves, plus, as you know, owing service providers almost reaching 1.2 billion, out of which almost 908 million, 908.5 million as we pay as we speak, with some more payments coming out next week. So we have, it's a serious situation that must be addressed and addressed as soon as it's practical. So we're taking the steps, as we said, to engage with Labour and to take input and to fine-tune whatever proposals that we put forward.
So from what you're telling me, if I'm hearing what you're telling me, your proposal to government means that government can take a decision that will cushion the burden of the worker, and this cost will not be transferred to the worker.
What we're suggesting is that if all of us come together to agree that the scheme must be funded and funded well, we want a situation where workers will begin to contribute 1% of their wages in a month, every month, and then your employer would also contribute 2%. And government being the biggest employer, as you well know.
Mr. Mensah, unfortunately, we are unable to complete that conversation with Mr. Mensah. But Mr. Kote, from what you're hearing from Mr. Mensah on the other line, what are your final words?
Well, I believe that there's more to come from their end, because how come at the point they were able to accumulate so much debt? What was the result of that debt? We need to, appreciate all those things. And then, like I said earlier on, is it that Smith is not giving them what they deduct from us directly to them on time? And if those debts, were placed to government, was it that government was supposed to give some contribution that was not coming? Because we have heard the current government saying that they came to inherit a debt of some, hundreds of millions of Ghana cedis on the NHI. They claim they have paid either all or over 50%. How did that debt accumulated? There are many questions that I believe on Thursday, when we meet them, we'll put it before them. The issue as to the new levy, we don't want to have it as a consultation for now. They must prove to us how efficient they have been, and then thereafter, if there are other issues of concern, that would mean that something extra should be done. Then we can look at it. For now, I'm afraid we cannot jump into that proposal.
So for you, this is off the table. The issue of the levy is off the table until you get these.
Because the consultations have not ended, okay? And those who have to make the decision are the workers who are supposed to go and pay and feel the pinch. Whether they are willing to say, let's take it from there or we should take it from there. Already, the thing itself does not cover a lot of ailments. Number two, if you visit any facility, they will tell you that the facility cannot cover this kind of drug or that kind of drug, etc., etc. So already there are a lot of questions on the scheme itself.
Right.
So we think we should just not jump the gun. They should take time on that and allow us to also go through the structures, and then the decision can be made.
Thank you very much, Solomon Kote. He is General Secretary of the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union. And on the other line, a Deputy Manager in charge of marketing at the NHIA, Oswald Estia Mensah, also joined us. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Mensah.